We'll give them more details. Okay, when they need the opportunity to determine the timelines and so on. We'll give them that. They need very clear specifications. Give them that. They need, create a project so that you give people what makes them look good. And there's nothing you can do to IT worse than force them to have to do sloppy work where they don't look good. That is a killer for them. And that's exactly just an example. So, but it is relevant to what we're talking about. Is you're always trying to ask this question: what is self-worth for this person? What is self-worth for the database administrator? What is the self-worth for a server engineer? What is the self-worth for a network engineer? It's strange, but you will find that there is a little bit of diversity, but there may be some common theme, and it all comes down to that self-worth. Yes, Jacqueline.
I was going to say, one of the things we have to be careful of, because I've been working in IT since '95, and one of the things I feel we have, that's 23 years, one of the things I find I really have to be careful of is the fact that people will try and use technology to hide the fact that they haven't got a job done, or they haven't worked through what they need to do a job, and the project is in the face of failing, either because they've got competing things going on a kind day, or they're just not interested on a bad day. And one of our jobs as project managers is to, using this kind of a class, to learn how to get the best out of people, and see, understand, be able to divide when they're trying to blind us with technology because they're hiding something, or when they're blinding us with technology because that's the only way they know to communicate, because there is a difference, and we have to be very sensitive to that.
Yeah, and that's an example of indirect communication, and so that's exactly, we're just trying to learn how to decode. Okay, here's some keywords. Thank you so much, Jacqueline. Yes?
Well, so far we've talked about what you call regional or country cultural differences, but we're just now hitting with your comments on the cultural differences between what sometimes referred to as soft arts and hard arts, or whatever. So in every organization, there's the marketing people and the advertising people and so forth. And they're more, I don't know, you'd call them interdependent or whatever. And then technical guys, who are experts on one technical technology or so whatever. And I've got a lot of my consulting with sitting between. And as a rule, it's been a case of very often the technical people have this tunnel vision based on their technical background, okay, or versus, and they don't see the mesh. Of course, there is one situation where I deal with the technical issues of merging different companies in different states, where one group was pushing for a certain, you see this with one person or one group that's pushing for one solution, and you don't see the technical justification at all, and you've got to step in and find out what the deal is. The deal was, we don't want to move to a different city when this gets merged together, so we're coming up with all kinds of solutions
to avoid that.
We're the experts on the system, and I come in as an SME, and it's like this problem is solved easily.
Subject matter expert.
Yeah, well, I got separated from the engagement when I openly came out with the fact that there wasn't any need to buy a lot of expensive hardware and this complex system that didn't need to be that way. There was a simple answer that could be implemented in a week to solve a problem. So the group that was trying to keep from being block any possibility of them relocated to a different city, basically, we can't work with him. And the reason they can't work with me is because they hadn't even talked to me about the issue.
Yeah, that's an example where, like coming into a situation and be able to understand what are the cultural differences between the IT and the other business units that are not, and being able to to work with them, because that's an example where if you don't have that effective way of looking at the different cultures and work through them, you get rejected, you get ejected, rejected, and if it's something that is important to you, that's a shame, because you could like really figure out very small things and be able to be effective. So thank you for that. I appreciate it. So one thing that I wanted to highlight is, continuing this conversation, is when you are trying to gain agreement and commitments, if you are expressive from an independent, you tend to provide hints about your desired outcome. So you could say things like, hey, we were asked to reduce testing of this machine or this software or from 8 weeks to 6 weeks. That shouldn't be a problem. What do you think? That shouldn't be a problem, right? I mean, so if you are working with people from an interdependent culture with indirect, how that's gonna register with them is, okay, I think that's important for you. Getting that testing reduced is important for you. You just told me what is it that will work for you. Okay, so that shouldn't be a problem, right? Right, that should not be a problem. You get what you are broadcasting. So because if you are independent, you cannot help but express your needs, and so you're going to express it. That's just natural. It's like that shouldn't be a problem, right? You are expecting another independent to say, "I don't think so." That's not going to work. Remember, we did try to do this. That's what you're expecting. You expect resistance or rejection to your offer. An interdependent doesn't register it that way. They register it as, okay, that must be a priority for you, and that must be an important. Let's go make that happen for you. Yes, it should not be a problem.
So the hints are in the middle of absolute requirements that need to be met versus non-requirements. It sounds like if I'm an independent person speaking to interdependent, and I really make explicit your deadline is X, they're going to feel like I'm going back to the other charts, being blunt and over there.
Well, and if you are in a higher hierarchy, they're going to say, okay, then that's important to you. We're going to go make that happen for you, because you gave them direction, because that's what a good manager does. You gave clear direction. Now, you never ask them their opinion. You don't know if that's feasible for them or not. So you better, if you're going to give them that way, you better know that that's feasible, doable, and so on.
How do you find that out? How do you find that out if they're not going to want to tell you no?
Okay, so first of all, and that's what we're going to learn in the next slides. But what it is basically is when you ask if you are in a group, ask for feedback privately, because in a group, people are going to be very uncomfortable telling you that's not going to work. Also, avoid giving those hints. Avoid broadcasting those hints. And ask open-ended questions, not questions that will say yes or no. And that's going to come in the next slide as well. Most importantly, if you're going to ask something that has a discomfort associated with it, like somebody is not going to be able to make it potentially, when you are asking something that is going to be very difficult for someone. You usually know. How you deal with it when you're dealing with independent is different. You expect them to tell you, well, this is how I feel about it. But if you suggest your own concerns about that thing that is going to cause discomfort, that is possibly not going to be feasible, that there is risk around it, if you begin the conversation by suggesting your own concerns and risks, that gives permission to the other person to do the same. It primes them. It tells them, it is okay for you to tell me your concerns and risks and objections to this thing, because I am going to model that behavior by telling you what my concerns as well. You wouldn't need to do that if you are talking if two independents working together, because especially if you knew that is, that would be a known thing. Reducing testing from 6 weeks to 8 weeks, from 8 weeks to 6 weeks, the other person is going to tell you those risks and stuff. So you don't even talk about them. But this primes the other person, the interdependent, to also feel comfortable. It's like, I see, you're sending me signals that it's okay. You're giving me the psychological safety. Okay, well, in that case, Yeah, remember what happened 6 years ago? We went into that same situation, and here's what happens. And here's another thing that I'm going to give you as a subject matter expert, and this is going to help you assess whether this is feasible. And now you're getting intelligence, you're getting data, you're getting information, and that will inform your decisions. You see what you did? Very small thing. You just started by suggesting your own. But it's a big deal because you created psychological safety. You said, it's okay, I am looking for those things, and here's why, or here's how I'm going to tell you that. I'm actually going to begin by discussing those. And then all the time, listen for subtle hints of hesitation and difficulties. Because people will say yes, and then if you listen further, they're going to say, at some point, they may say, yeah, we should be able to get that testing done in 6 weeks instead of 8. Yes. So now you got your answer, you got your yes, and then they may follow it by saying, oh boy, we had this other thing, and then there will be another story. There could be a story, there could be something, but it will be really have all the elements of the no. So you see, they're saying no. They're just saying it in a different way. Your mission is to listen and pay attention. Keep focused on the response. Does it make sense? Because our natural tendency is to say, I heard a yes, I am done. Whatever you're talking about further, that is miscellaneous information that is irrelevant. I think you're just trying to make small talk. No. That is the answer. Okay, if you are interdependent, again, the issue is saying no is so hard for interdependence. Saying no has implication. It's like, oh my God, rejecting requests, disappointing, rejecting requests. It's just not good for relationships. It's a threat to relationships. It's a threat to face. When there is hierarchy in relationships, you don't say no. You try to make it happen. Somehow, some way. And you figure out how to communicate the no. But that's what if you're working with that's why in the pilot, in the cockpit example, they made it a rule that you have to speak up, so they gave that cover. The same thing here. People that are working with you and you communicate that psychological safety through your moves, through your speech moves, will learn to tell you no. It's still going to be difficult for them. Being direct to them tends to come across as being impolite and rude. Now, the other thing too is this is also when interdependents hear a no from an independent, it doesn't register with them very well. That is very blunt, like, wow. Like especially when you're working for a manager who is from an interdependent culture, you're working for a manager from an interdependent culture, Pixie. Yeah, so the whole way of how you say no, that changes for you. And most of you guys are going to find yourself in your career working for somebody from a different culture, working for an interdependent culture, and that will be a very stressful thing for you, guaranteed, because you're going to have to adopt a whole new style, potentially, that could be what this,